Public defender is someone who's decided that their life goal was to help people. People always ask, how could you represent people who get arrested? And my answer to that is always, you read a complaint, it tells you that a person committed a crime, and then you go back into a little room, and there's always a person back there. There's never a monster, there's never a crazy man, there's always a person. And for me, there was always a person that looked like me, or a person that looked like somebody I know, or somebody from my neighborhood.
Something I hope that my clients would take away from my representation, my office's representation, is that there are people out here that care about them and that will dedicate a significant amount of energy and time to them, and that they matter. I know that when someone gets arrested, it seems like nobody cares about them on the other end of the case, the police, the prosecutors, and so forth. But people like myself, public defenders, all across the city and country, we care about our clients like nobody else can.
I want people to know that my clients are everyday individuals, and it doesn't really, well, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter, but they are not, the sum of this one act that they are alleged to have committed. There's more to them than the allegations, there's more to them than their criminal history, there's more to them than, just this court case. They are people with thoughts, with dreams, with ideas, with feelings, and their humanity should be enough for us to care and want to do better.
Some people make mistakes. We are better than our worst mistakes. Our clients are our people. Our clients are our community. Our clients is everyone. I could have been a client. You could have been a client. I think that's what people really need to understand about what it is that we do. I'm not representing criminals. I'm representing people that are charged with crimes. That's different.
I chose this work because it's important for me for other Black and brown people to see a Black person in a position of authority. I chose this job because I know that I have a right to an attorney and I have a right to be protected. And if I want that right to be protected for myself, it's important that it's protected for other people. I know that this job is necessary, and because I have the privilege to go to law school and get this degree, there is no other job in my mind. That is why I do this job. That's why I became a public defender, is because I have to.
So I grew up with a mother who wanted to be an attorney but couldn't be an attorney. And I would watch television and I would see attorneys on television which were white males, just white males. There was nobody who looked like us, nobody who looked like me, nobody who looked like my father. And as I grew up and I decided that that's something I wanted to do, I said I was going to break into this and I was going to be a Black female attorney and I was going to represent the people that those white attorneys didn't represent on television, and that was the poor and the downtrodden.
We're dealing with people with emotions and frustrations that are valid, that are real. Several things can be true at once, that yes, they're accused of this particularly terrible thing, but that, they also have a right to feel frustrated. They have a right to feel hurt. They have a right to want to feel heard.
The thing that makes me happiest about my job is that I have the opportunity to represent people from all different walks of life that are facing completely different circumstances. It can be anywhere for someone that is charged with petty larceny, from stealing something from a store, to something more serious like a felony. One thing that I hope for my clients after representing them is that they truly feel that they have had the best representation that they could have had under the very unfortunate circumstances that they are under.
The thing that makes me happiest about my job is, I don't have a perfect answer, but let me tell you something. to be a black or brown girl and to walk into a courtroom and to get the respect that I get. And I never take for granted that I'm privileged. It's really like an empowering feeling to know that I could walk into the courtroom and people are just gonna respect me just off the strength that I'm licensed. And it's not a good thing all the time, because obviously if I wasn't, I wouldn't get treated the same. But I take that privilege and I never take it for granted, and I use it to my advantage to help my clients.
When a public defender first meets their client, a lot of times that person is experiencing their worst moment of crisis. A public defender has a few minutes to sit down with someone who's having the worst day ever and learn as much as they can to be able to stand in front of a judge and explain why that person shouldn't be locked up and sent to jail. They have a few moments to prepare an argument, to explain to the judge why this case doesn't make any sense at all and why it should just be dismissed.
So a public defender actively every single day chooses to take a front seat and a front row in some of the worst injustices in this criminal legal system. For my representation, I hope that my clients feel seen and feel heard, feel like their voices have been represented in a way that empowers them and empowers their communities, empowers their households, and empowers their life circumstances.
We've all done something that we're ashamed of. We've all done something that we wish we hadn't. But does that one moment in time define who you are, right? I would say no, right? We're all better than that. And so that's what I like to focus on. If you think about it, we represent poor people accused of crimes, right? So when you think of a subject of the population where people are gonna have the least amount of sympathy and empathy for, it's that segment.
I got into this practice specifically to walk my clients out of jail, court, and to be able to go home. Literally, their liberty is always at stake with every court appearance. My soul will never normalize the fact that when I enter a courtroom, everybody on the docket that day is more than likely black or brown. That's never ever gonna be normal to me. And sometimes I just still, to this day, I'm going into my 6th year of practice and just look around the courtroom. And the fact that we treat this as normal is just really it shocks my conscience every single day. It's not normal to me.
The same exact things that are going on in the neighborhoods where they're arresting our clients, the black and brown people, are going on in those other Upper East Side rich neighborhoods too. They're just not investigating it. They're not investigating. The exact same stuff is going on between drugs, violence, domestic violence, larcenies, all of that kind of stuff is going on there too. It just is never investigated.
I'd want people to know that my clients are human. My clients are not defined by a piece of paper. My clients are not defined by an A number, by their status, by what they're allegedly charged. They are human, just like you and just like me. Keep in mind that we're one decision away from being in their shoes.
The thing that makes me happiest about my job is really seeing the smile on my clients' faces and their families' faces after a win, whether that's a trial win or a good disposition. Just seeing the smile and the relief in their faces when their case is over is really what keeps me going. I chose this work because I wanted to give back. I wanted to give back to my community, and I wanted to be a voice for the voiceless.
A public defender is fierce, courageous, and very determined. No matter what, we can't give up, because at the end of the day, somebody else's life is in our hands. They're human beings just like everyone else who have fears, who have goals, ambitions, things they want in life, but for whatever reason are struggling and need a little bit of help. And most importantly, they need someone to believe in them.
I think people look at individuals who have been ensnared in the criminal justice system and think that they're different kind of human beings, that they are in some separate group, that they're not your dad, your best friend, your mom, your sister, your aunts or uncles. They are all of those people, and they deserve the same rights as you and I. Those moments where you have success for your clients are golden, and you never forget those moments ever.
So one word that would describe me as a public defender is that I'm a fighter.
One word to describe a public defender is that we are fearless.
One word that describes a public defender is a warrior.
One word that describes a public defender is dedicated.
One word that describes a public defender is resilience.
One word that describes a public defender is relentless.
I'd like to think that one word to describe a public defender is, or a couple of words to describe a public defender is like a life advisor.
One word that describes a public defender is fierce.
One word that defines a public defender is compassion.
Persistent.
One word that I would use to describe a public defender is persistent. A second word could possibly be resilient.
One word that describes a public defender is grit.
The one word that describes a good public defender is tenacity.
One word that describes a public defender is a fighter.
One word that describes a public defender is a public servant.
One word to describe a public defender is creative.
A word that describes a public defender is zealous.
One word that describes a public defender is resilient.